Hi everyone, it's Hillary. I'm back with another video. Today I wanted to talk about late diagnosis and my own experience with being diagnosed on the autism spectrum disorder later than childhood. I thought I'd go over kind of how I navigated the diagnostic process and why I wanted to pursue that. And then maybe you can also garner a little advice from my own experiences. Um, I wanted to pursue a diagnosis because I really felt that um, autism explained so much of who I am and my experiences throughout my entire life. And so the biggest reason I pursued a diagnosis was because it would be extremely validating to kind of everything I have gone through my entire life. And also, having the diagnosis and disclosing it to people, I think can be very helpful to, have people have a little bit more of an understanding of where you're coming from, especially if they're willing to listen and learn. And hopefully I can backtracking a little bit, and also the diagnosis will guide my therapy and medical treatment more appropriately than other kind of diagnoses, because this is the one that really fits as a primary diagnosis. So I initially received a referral from my primary care physician to go to a center that specializes in evaluation and treatment of autism spectrum disorders. It was a terrible experience. It was quite traumatic, honestly. All my worst fears of not being taken seriously because I can present like I am functioning quite well. All of my fears were realized. I broke down crying in the middle of the session. The doctor said I did not have autism because I was married, that somebody would, want to be married to an autistic person. What? How can that be? That's sarcasm right there. Because I'm married, because I'm a speech therapist, and because I want children. Those were the main reasons they used against me for not, that I couldn't possibly be autistic. And that's just utter ridiculousness that I hope to, kind of enlighten other people about why that is ridiculous through just the course of these videos. But anyway, so they said I couldn't possibly be autistic, but I was clearly a very depressed person. Those were their exact words. So it was an incredibly invalidating and traumatic experience for me. But what I ended up doing, which is what I probably should have done in the first place, and my advice to you, is I looked at the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for autism spectrum disorder, and DSM stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it's the 5 comes from the fact that it's the 5th edition. I copied and pasted the diagnostic criteria into a document, and then I went through and I made bullet points of how I fit the criteria, and I was really detailed in not only saying, okay, I have difficulty, for example, initiating and maintaining a conversation, but then I came up with examples of how this manifests. So I presented my notes to my psychologist, who's a doctor in psychology, so she can make diagnoses. I presented the information to her, and I broached it kind of tenderfootedly, because again, I wanted to be taken seriously, and so in essence, I guess I was kind of masking, but I don't know, not really, because I was trying to get at the heart of something. But anyway, so I was kind of tender-footed in my broaching of the subject. I said, I've been doing a lot of reading. I'm really identifying with something, and I want your help and insight regarding this. And she was like, okay, what is it? And I said, I'm really identifying with a lot of the characteristics of autism spectrum disorder, particularly in girls and women. And I said, I kind of made this list of characteristics, and I organized it according to the DSM's diagnostic criteria. Would you be willing to take a look? And she said, of course, because she's wonderful. And she took a look, and we talked about it for a number of sessions, not just one, at least 3. Ultimately she said, yes, you are on the autism spectrum. You meet all of the diagnostic criteria, and this explains everything. This explains all of our unanswered questions. This explains, things that just didn't quite fit with, other kind of diagnoses and perspectives that people had about my, for lack of a better word, condition. And so that ended up ultimately working out for me. And as I think I communicated in my first video, the realization and confirmation that I am autistic has been just the most affirming, validating thing. And not to say that it's all, rainbows and unicorns and everything, and sunshine, having this diagnosis, not having the diagnosis, but, struggles come with the territory of being autistic, so it's so validating, because it says, there's a reason, a concrete reason why you are the way that you are, and you're not less than, you're just different. Which everybody's different, right? So anyway, so that was kind of my experience with pursuing a diagnosis not late in life, but later in life than we tend to think of people being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So I hope this has been a little bit helpful. If you are pursuing a diagnosis, I would suggest that, if possible, you broach the idea with a healthcare provider with whom you already have an established relationship, because if you, in my experience, if you bring it up with somebody who doesn't know you that well, especially if you have masked a good portion of your life, they might unfortunately not listen to you in the way that you need to be listened to. And then, maybe even before you, talk to a healthcare provider about maybe being on the autism spectrum, maybe try to do a little work on your own unmasking, so that, they can see for themselves, your characteristics, and then also, just be prepared. I don't think a lot of doctors would necessarily be really open and happy if you came in with your own checklist of things saying, this is what I have, diagnose me. I think they might feel like their toes are being stepped on a little bit, and they might think, well, I'm the doctor here. I'm the one who has the education, and they do. I'm not, discrediting medical professionals at all. That is also to say that we as people are the experts on ourselves. So, as a speech language therapist, my advice to other healthcare providers would be, regardless of whether a person comes to you saying, I think I am autistic, whatever it is, I think it's so important that we check our own egos at the door, and that we listen to the people that we're caring for. We ask questions. So instead of, being dismissive and saying, well, I don't really see that, right off the gate, maybe instead asking, oh, tell me about that. What struggles are you experiencing? Tell me about, your difficulties with X, Y, and Z. Because I think it's so important to build trusting relationships between patients and their healthcare providers. And I think that's a great way. Listening and asking questions in a really open way is a great first step to building that trust. So I hope this video has been a little helpful, a little insightful. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to message me and ask the questions, and I hope to be able to respond to you in one way or another. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to making my next video. Bye!